Hello everyone, welcome to another video with Mechai. Today I've got an E75 battle for you on Ruinberg, a lovely map to play on. I'm a big city map fan, so that's great. This battle is a... I think I'll make you guys wait and see what exactly it is. It's a very exciting battle, I'll give you that. I am top tier to my E75. There's only 2 tier 9s per team. The other team has an M103 and a Tortoise. Tortoises aren't worried about. But we have a Leopard Prototype A, which is also a great tank, and the Tier 9 players are good players, so that should make for an interesting battle. Ruinberg. Here we go. I'll bring up that map for you so we can describe the tactics that I'm looking at. We're on the north side, which is the side I seem to get the most often, so it's quite handy because I really already know what I feel like doing. We're on the north, and I'm started over here on the A4 line, and what I like to do pretty much every time, unless I'm in a light or medium tank, is I like to come up through this alley here to the B4 and come over to the E2 corner here in this alleyway right here. And it doesn't really matter if it's standard battle, which this is, or it's encounters here at F1 where the flag is. I like to go to the flag on encounter maps usually, so it doesn't really matter to me what the strategy is. So I will go over here, and I like to play a little bit of peekaboo / side scraping in this alley. And then if I'm in a platoon, hopefully we can work both these alleys. This one over here, E3, is also very important. So you kind of just make sure you lock down all the alleys so you don't get surprised. Usually a TD comes here to E1, which is very handy. I'll work here at E2, and then I think the rest of my team in this battle works on E3 and tries getting them all caught up and bunched up in the middle, which works out very well for me, as you'll see. I tend to avoid the field unless I'm in a light tank because I don't really like being out in the open. For one, it's, if Artie is in this map, for the most part, they're looking in the field because that's where their best shots are. And I hate getting Artied. Who doesn't? So I usually don't go this way unless I'm in a light or a medium, or nobody else goes that way, and I feel like I'm the only person who can support. Because you do need people to hold that line, because obviously if they push through the 0 line and no one stops them from being Artie, or just, coming around and flanking the crap out of you from the side, that's just not going to end very well for your team, is it? So that's what I'm going to do in this one, so let's get started. Alrighty, and so I decided to mix things up a little bit. The way I've been doing this originally is I was just sort of running through and showing you the tank while in the map, and I decided I'd rather come into the garage and give you guys a more technical and statistical view of how the tanks are. So we'll start off with the E75 here, which is a magnificent piece of German machinery. Why is it magnificent? Well, it's pretty much lauded as the best Tier 9 heavy tank in the game. It's probably also the best German tank in the game. And for the simple reason of that it is a massively armored, well-weaponed piece of equipment. It has 1,920 hit points, which is quite high for a Tier 9 heavy. It weighs 92.3 tons, which is massive. That's one of the top 5 heaviest tanks in the game. And it's pushed along with the 1,200 horsepower Maybach engine, which makes it have a pretty good amount of get up and go. This thing can move, and it can ram, and people that ram it will find that it's kind of an immovable object. The acceleration isn't bad either, and it will reach its top speed of 30. The problem with this tank is, while it does have a decent amount of acceleration and speed, it isn't very maneuverable or agile. The track traverse is only 21 degrees a second, which isn't very good. So changing directions is kind of a problem. Also, getting flanked is kind of a problem. And this problem is further pushed along with the fact that it only has 18 turret traverse. The turret's incredibly slow, and this will be a rude awakening for you when you upgrade from the stock turret, because it has 25 traverse, which is reasonable for a heavy tank. 18 is not reasonable for anything. It's very slow. It takes all day for this tank to turn around, so getting flanked is a real problem and makes this tank very vulnerable. But what makes it so good is the fact that it has really great armor. Now, starting from the front, it only has 60 millimeters of armor, which doesn't sound like a lot. However, look at this slope. It is awesome. It's awesome on the lower glacis. It's awesome on the upper glacis. it is great. If you have this tank angled like this, about a 15 to 20 degree angle, this thing is one of the hardest tanks to pen from the front, bar none. And unless you are slinging gold ammunition or rocking one of the highest pen, medium heavy TD tanks in tier 10, you're going to have a hard time penning this thing. It only has a couple weaknesses from the front. There's a couple of viewports, and obviously the commander's hatch, cupola, is a weakness like it is on all tanks, and it is relatively high. But other than that, this thing is very hard to hit, especially at range. It's almost impossible to pen this thing like at 500 meters plus unless you're firing gold. The problem is that you go to the sides, and the sides are only 120 on the hull, and they're not at a great angle or anything. They're at a slight slope here, but they're not great. And the bigger problem is the ammo rack extends almost the entire side of the tank here and on the turret. And the side turret's only got 160 millimeters of armor, which is not very much. This thing is easily penned from the sides. The only plus it has going for it is unless they aim high, they'll hit the tracks. The tracks do absorb a good amount of damage, as you'll see in the battle I have coming up. It absorbs a ton of damage, and I take a lot of track damage. And then we go to the back, and as is the story for almost every tank, with the exception of the mouse, the back armor is garbage. It's 120 on the hull and 160 on the back, and you'll get lit on fire almost for sure if you get hit on the back. And on the front, I do think that this tank also has the ability to be set on fire, like a lot of German tanks from the front with the transmission, so that is something to keep in mind. You don't want to take lower glacis shots. If you can, you want to haul this thing down for sure. And the turret, I didn't mention the front turret armor is also great. It's 250 in the front, and the mantlet takes up most of it. That's really hard to pen. So the armor is great, and when you can side scrape with this thing. You just need to be really careful, because if you go too deep, not shallow enough of an angle, you will get penned on the sides. And the tracks are big, and they'll suck up a lot of damage. So you need to get in people's faces, and you need to brawl with this tank, especially with this gun, because this is sort of an un-German-esque gun for a heavy tank. It's 128. It's essentially the same gun you get on the Ferdinand, but with not as good of characteristics. It only has 3.8 rounds per minute, which isn't very good. It's a 13-second reload with a max crew with equipment, with a loader, fan, and a rammer. And the pen isn't great either. It's only 246. It's 311 with gold, which also isn't exactly what I call an auto pen. And then you tie the penetration with the accuracy, which is 0.38, which is the exact same accuracy as the IS-8 and this STI. It is not a very accurate sniping cannon. It's not the worst, but it isn't the greatest. And the 2.9 aiming time isn't great either. But what it does have is a great alpha, which is 490. Again, accentuating the fact that this tank needs to be played as a brawler. You need to get in people's faces and hit them with this thing. The problem with that is there are weaknesses that people will know, and you can't get flanked, and the reload time is ridiculous. When you start with this tank, you're going to have a turret which doesn't have a lot of armor, only 185, 80, 80 front, sides, and rear, and you're going to have the same 105 that you had in the Tiger II with a little bit better reload. And you're going to have this gun for a long ass time, because the grind to get to the top gun on this thing is really long, as is the case with most tier 9 tanks. Fortunately, the 105 is a workable gun. It's got better handling characteristics than the 128, so you can make it work. Plus, you played with it in the Tiger II, or it's similar to the other 105s you play with. So you should be pretty familiar with it, and the reload time's pretty good. So you can make it work. Obviously, I did. Otherwise, I wouldn't have a top gun. It is a bit of a frustrating grind, particularly because the stock engine in this thing, has almost 400 less horsepower, which is quite noticeable, and the tracks are not so great. You do get some additional turret traverse with the upgrade tracks. So, yeah, stock this thing isn't exactly amazing. It's slow, doesn't have a great penetrating gun, doesn't pump out a ton of damage, and the turret is suspect with its armor. But the hull armor, thank God, makes up for most of this, because if you know how to play this tank, you can make it abuse people. And we'll move on to the equipment. You like to put a fan on all my tanks because it helps everything. A rammer is a no-brainer for every tank because you want to shoot faster, because the point is dealing out damage. The third one is where you can mix it up a little bit. I have a vertical stabilizer on this because I do drive it around a lot and lead the push, and you want to have accuracy when you're taking snapshots. You could put a wet ammo rack on because this thing gets ammo racked a lot. You'll see I get ammo racked in the game I'm about to show you, and make sure you save your repair kits for your ammo rack on the E75. Don't waste it on tracks. Get a perk for repair on all your crew members with the exception of the commander for repair and keep it high, or you will regret that. You can also put a gun laying drive on if you want, just for making the aiming time a little faster. That wouldn't hurt because the aiming time isn't great on the 128. Or you can use coated optics to try and get the range up. That's up to you. I'd say you need to put a fan and a rammer on every other tank, though. Every tank that can have them, you need to put them on. I don't load any gold on the E75 because it costs too much. And if you aim your shots, you can make the 150 pen work for you. You just got to aim your shots. And then obviously just regular, repair kits and med kits and fire extinguisher. As for crew, it's up to you. You do what you want. I always start off with repair and mentor on the commander for everyone until it gets 100. Then I'll either do brothers in arms or I'll do 6th sense for the commander, and then whichever perks you like on your other tankers. That's totally up to you. Do whatever feels comfortable for you there. I think that's a pretty good walkthrough on the E75. Let's show you what it does in battle. So we'll get this started here. And as I said, I'm going to go up to the E2 line, just work my way up through the city, keeping a watchful eye on my teammates to see how they're going to do. It looks like a pretty balanced team on both sides. Their T-34 players pretty good. But our Type 59s are good, and their platoon. Love Type 59 platoons when they're on my team. That's just, they're going to help out and do great. And you can see the types and the Leopard prototype. All of our medium tanks are going to the 6 line, which is kind of a weird tactic. That's really exposed. I'm not sure I really like that. And Chaffies are coming out of the woodwork from the enemy team. And I don't know if this is a bad idea. I shouldn't stop right here because I've been spotted. But luckily, I make a count and get a nice hit on the Chaff. Bounce a shot off him. He's not going to pen me. The other Chaffee gets ruined by the low, or Luva. I'm just going to call it low because it's easier to say. And take a shot and missed at the other Chaffee. So he's going to sit up here and just try to be a scout. Okay, well, that's color for him. I'm looking and see that the Tiger 2, M103, Super Pershing are in the middle area over there. T-32 as well. So Chaffee's just scouting for them. There's an AC who's trying to get up to the G1 spot for some sniping. I take a little shot into my tracks. It does nothing. I think I missed again. Aim those shots, Jim. Aim those shots. So here I am going to do a little bit of side scraping because I see the M103s right there. And I was probably doing this during the match, but I'm just going to keep this in my control so I can show you guys what I want, not be at the mercy of what I was doing in the battle. So I'm just playing a little peekaboo. There's a Super Pershing behind me who's going to do a good job absorbing some shots for me. I see that T-34 and Leopard are in the middle of the city, and a couple of our mediums are scooting up through the middle alley, the F and Eva alley. But this is just a cluster. I'm going to stop this right here. This is just a cluster right here. Everybody's in the city, except for one of the lights and one of our types, I believe. So I know at this moment we have a problem because there's too many tanks over here in this little quadrant, and not enough tanks over here to stop these guys just pushing and muscling their way through the city. So I'm kind of stuck at the moment because I'm engaged, but I'm getting a little worried. So I'm just trying to pound some shots into that T-32 since he's the one that's taking all the brutal. Focusing fire, people. A very important thing to do. You got to focus fire and get tanks, get guns out of the game. Get them out of the game. So that's my primary concern right now, is to get some guns out of this game. I'm keeping an eye on that AC, make sure he doesn't pop out and get me. I finish off T-32, back up. Let my 13-second reload start kicking in. That M103, I know he's a decent player, so I'm thinking he's my next primary target, but a Super Pershing gets pushed out into the open, so I'm going to pound one in the side of him, and I take a hit from the M103 and get ammo racked. I get ammo racked in this thing all the time. It's so frustrating. So I fix it. Still doing a little bit of peekaboo / side scraping. And I'm conscious now the M103 is going to give me some trouble. Our Super Pershing takes out their Super Pershing. Awesome. We lost a type in the field. Keeping an eye on that. And there's a Jag Tiger 88 peeking out around behind the church. TDs on the south side love to do that. It's a great spot. And we are losing tanks quickly now. But they've also lost a few too. But 2 of them were scouts. We lost one of our scouts. So I'm keeping an eye on the Jag Tiger, trying to keep him honest. M103 is still peeking out, looking for targets. There's another Super Pershing of theirs peeking out. We get their Tortoise out. That's great. He was over here at the F3 or F4 alley. Tanks are just dropping left and right, and I'm getting a little hesitant because I'm getting bullied by this Jag Tiger 88, which I shouldn't be letting him do. Taking a couple shots on him because he's being a pain in my ass. And the Super Pershing's coming up to get bullish. And he tracks me. Awesome. Love being tracked. So at this point, I'm looking at the map and I notice that I am now by myself. The Super Pershing went to the other side. Actually, I think he died. Yeah, the Super Pershing was when he died. The SU was behind me left. They're all bunched over here at E3. These guys are getting pinched in the alley over here at E6. And there's a T-34-2 over here that's just doing something. Jag Tiger's still behind the church, and the M103 is still playing a little bit of peekaboo, but now he's rolled up the other alley to put some pressure on the rest of my team. So now I decide it's time to go get Mr. Super Pershing because he's just kind of in my way. Get a nice shot in right there. Playing around with the zoom a little bit. Alright, so I'm just going to let him, if he wants to play peek with me, he can come play. He was never going to penetrate me, so I finish him off. Teammates saying kill the M103. Yeah, no kidding. And Jag Tiger tracks me. I've only taken one hit for actual damage at this point. I've bounced a lot of shots and taken some tracks. So the armor's doing its work. E75 armor does not disappoint as long as you use it well, which I've been doing for the most part. Except for when I took that side shot from the M103. Yep, side shot. The only one that penned. That was my fault. So now this M103, I know he's not paying attention. It's time to get him out of this damn game. And I light him on fire. Awesome. And some teammates are complaining. But I'm kind of pinched now between the Jag Tiger 88 and that M103. So I got to pick one. So I decided to go get the Jag Tiger because the M103 is pulling away. And I don't want to just let the Jag Tiger have back shots on me because he will penetrate my rear. Anything can penetrate the rear on an E75. So he's just giving me his lower glacis, so I'm just going to pull him apart. And a quick review. So what do we have? Well, I have a dead team. Except for an Artie in the corner. I'm in the middle of the city, surrounded by an IS-3, T-34 low, T-43, and an M103 who's, I think, at half health. So I am now in survival mode and need to try to pull this out. Let's see what I do. Notice that there's a Super Pershing right here. Jag Tiger 88's complaining about my armor. Or he's complaining about his armor. I know where to pen you, buddy. M103, whew, I just missed him. I see this IS-3 coming up. Fortunately, my tracks soak it up. Wait, no, they didn't. Wait, what happened? What happened? I either took a shot from the IS-3 or the T-34. No, it had to be the IS-3. Sorry. So the IS-3 put a shot into me right there on the side. And I'm tracked. Again. Great. So now I got a mostly full health IS-3 playing around with me. Get my good armor facing front. I know there's a low over there. I gotta take some shots here. Ammo rack the M103. That is awesome. So now I gotta bully the IS-3, who, if I keep clenched like this, he shouldn't be able to penetrate me. If he's smart, he would back up and try putting him in a lower plate. But I could try angling. I take a stupid shot there. I know I was aiming at his cupola there. I should have backed up and taken a shot. That was stupid. And he makes a mistake there and lets me turn him around a little bit. There we go. I was really hoping I could bounce that. The problem that I have here is the IS-3 has the same reload time that I do. So we're kind of just exchanging shots. I can't really get a shot on his upper hull, so although I did just put that one in right there. Let's see if I did that. Yep, right there. Right at the top of his hatch. Hi. I must have made that one count. So what I'm hoping here is that I can sneak one more shot in, but the low comes in and finishes me with a side shot. Heartbreak, hotel, in. The Artie sneaks in a shot and finishes off the low. I was gutted by this. I was gutted. I get a props from the one of our scouts who just said, great job. 5 kills, and it looks like I did a ton of damage. I've had the end plate, so I'm going to pull them up for you right now, so we'll do that. Alright, so we're looking at the end credits of the battle, and so 7,759 damage. Holy crap. That's a ton of damage. That might be one of the highest damage results I've ever had in a battle. Yeah, just epic. I mean, we could see we just pounded it out on a ton of them. We hit the IS-3, the M103, the T-32, the T-34. The Jag Tiger 88 was one of the guys we chewed up massively. And the 2 Super Pershings that they had. 16 out of 20, good hit percentage. And almost 1,000 damage in detecting. That's really good. Let's look at the experience. How was top experience? Unfortunately, yeah, I kind of carried here. The rest of my team kind of got caught up in the middle of the map, and unfortunately the R team was also there. And the Tortoise probably pumped out a good amount of damage. The AC 48 pumped out a lot of damage. The M103 was just destroying people, and so was the T-34. So unfortunately, it was basically just a clash in the middle of the map, and the R team played better over there. And unfortunately, I wasn't really in a position that I could help right away because I was pinned down by the Jag Tiger 88 and the M103 for a while, and those 2 Super Pershings that were kind of just dancing around those 2 alleyways over there. Pull up the last one so we can look at my specific stats. 6,800 potential damage received. There's the armor at work for the E75. You can see it right there. And the gun, for the most part, the gun penetrated every time I shot. 16 pens, 16 hits. I missed 4 times. 2 or 3 of those were just errant shots I was taking that just, you know, floated over those 2. The Chaffee was one, and I think I sailed one over the IS-3 when I was trying to hit it as Cupola. Made a ton of money. And also we've got that event going on, getting the E100, which is why I've been playing my E75 so much, trying to grind to that E100. And so this one was crushing because this would have been amazing on a ×2. It would have really helped me out a lot because I just need like another 20 to 15,000 experience before I can get to the E100. Closing thoughts on the battle. Things I could have done differently. I probably should have imposed my will a little bit more on that alley that I was on instead of getting pinched back by the Jag Tiger 88 and the M103. However, I couldn't really have swung around to the other alley to my right because there was already too many tanks there, and I just would have been adding more fuel to the fire for the other team just to keep sitting there and pinning us down. So really, I was in the right spot. Maybe I should have been on the other alley to my map left, just to get a little bit a bigger angle on the other enemies. But it basically would have been the same thing. If one of the other tanks on our team could have maybe just pushed out a little bit more damage, or maybe they got flanked from the other side. We had those 2 types, and I believe the T-34-2 that was over in the field. If they could have flanked around the back or something like that, that would have really changed the flow of the battle. As it was, they controlled the pace of the battle, and that's why they won. I wasn't allowed to get out of the corner that I dug myself into. I did as much as I could. I pushed out almost 8,000 damage, which is a crap ton of damage. But it wasn't enough, and these are those heartbreaking battles that it was a massive amount of fun to play, but it was heart crushing because I was so gutted by the fact I couldn't turn that into a ×2, and I probably would have had Top Gun and maybe even a Pools medal or something like that if we had pulled that out. But it just wasn't meant to be, and that's something you will experience plenty of times. It was a good battle though, and that's great. That was a lot of fun. I appreciate those battles. So that's going to wrap it up for me for this video for today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please click like, please subscribe, and leave your comments below, and I will get to them. I hope you guys enjoyed, and take care.